Altered Beast is a game I have fond memories of. Playing as a warrior who has been resurrected by Zeus, the player has to rescue Athena by fighting his way through legions of demonic creatures. Looking at the game now, I can see that it has several flaws, but I can still have a go on the Genesis version and have some nostalgic fun. The same cannot be said of the Master System port. Credit where credit is due. Graphically, considering the system, I have to say it looks nice. The gameplay, however, stinks. The game has appeared on many other systems, and I recently learned that there is an NES version, which is the one I'll be reviewing today. The first thing that hits you when the cartridge starts up are the graphics. This is possibly the ugliest version of Altered Beast which I have ever seen. The sprites are tiny when compared to other versions of the game, and the color scheme used leaves a lot to be desired. Perhaps they made sacrifices in the looks department to make the thing move along at an acceptable pace. I have to say that the main character moves along much more smoothly than, say, the Master System version of Altered Beast, which has a very sluggish feel. From the gameplay footage, you can see that this is a simple game. The screen scrolls along forward, and the main character punches or kicks anything that he comes across. Altered Beast's claim to fame are the character transformations. Whenever a white wolf is killed, a flying orb is released, which if picked up, powers up the skinny hero. Each orb that is collected changes the character's appearance. First off, he removes his shirt. Next, he builds up muscle faster than a bodybuilder on steroids. Finally, you morph into an animal that can easily destroy the regular enemies you'll encounter. Most of the animal forms have a long-range attack, such as a fireball, and a second charge attack that makes the beast ram into its foes. What beast you transform into varies from level to level. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can see cartoon animal faces, which represent the player's lives. This gives you a hint on what creature you will transform into. By the way, transforming is not an optional bonus. To face a boss, you have to be in your final form, otherwise the level will repeat itself. This isn't as bad as it sounds, as the levels are fairly short, and once you have an idea what's coming, it's fairly easy to collect all the necessary orbs in just one lap of the stage. What I think is weird is that the boss is so merciful. Why allow the player a second chance to get stronger? Wouldn't it be a good idea just to take down the hero when he's weak? When playing the game, you'll note that the levels which appeared in the Genesis version have been recreated on the NES. You also get a couple of extra levels which didn't feature on the 16-bit console. I find the NES version of Altered Beast to be an easier game, especially the first few levels. 3 lives may, however, not be enough to overcome this longer version of the game. Thankfully, you get a couple of continues, and with enough practice, I think most players can get through the whole thing without too much trouble. Although the game isn't particularly long, at times it can feel repetitive. In one level, you have pitfalls to jump over, but other than that, you pretty much walk right for the entire game. You get different types of enemies which keep things varied, but they possess no AI to speak of. The monsters walk, bounce or fly about in predetermined paths. This makes the action feel like an exercise in not bumping into things rather than fighting. The enemies that punch are annoying, as you have to stand still and wait for them to come to you, as walking up to them will end up with the player getting smacked. I also hated taking on any aerial enemies. Executing a jumping attack can be awkward at times, so hitting anything that flies can prove to be frustrating. One aspect which modern gamers will find lacking are the boss fights. These monstrosities take quite a few hits to overcome, but are far from challenging. Most of the end-of-level guardians only have one attack, which they repeat over and over. Avoiding their blows isn't too tough, and at times you don't even have to dodge anything. Stand in the right place, and you can spam the same attack to easily win. I'm also not exactly sure what they were trying to achieve by removing the background during these fights. Maybe the programmers thought fighting in a black void makes things dramatic, but the absence of a backdrop, in my opinion, doesn't look very professional. The last boss is somewhat disappointing. He fires high and low projectiles, but both attacks can be avoided simply by jumping. The battle isn't tough, although somewhat tedious. Some of the other bosses would have made a better choice as the final fight. For example, the underwater tentacle monster isn't tough, but unlike the other bosses that randomly attack, it at least aims at the player when firing. This guy is the toughest thing in the whole game. The little bird thing messes up your jumps, and its fiery attack requires precise timing to avoid. The freak show crowd might even argue that this monster should be the last boss. Why? It has purple boobies. I'm awarding Altered Beast a 5 out of 10. If you enjoyed the Genesis game, you may want to sample the NES version to try out the extra levels. This is, however, an inferior game, so I can understand that many people would be put off from playing it. That said, if you give it a chance, I think you will find there is some limited enjoyment to be had. Thanks for watching, and take care.
If you can dream, just send a wish out in the dark and be that Care Bears.